First Contact. The Rigelian-Nixorian War had raged for 17 decades when humanity first achieved faster-than-light travel. The conflict spanned 12,000 light-years across the Orion Arm, consuming countless worlds and civilizations in its wake. The war had become such a fixture of galactic life that younger species evolved with knowledge of it encoded in their cultural memory. As constant as gravity, as inevitable as entropy. Grand Marshal Calaxi of the Rigelian Defense Force stared at the tactical display aboard her flagship, the unwavering Dominion. Thousands of ship signatures blinked across the Cygnus sector. Another front, another stalemate. Her chitinous exoskeleton had dulled from its once vibrant azure to a pale, weathered blue over her 3 centuries of service. The war had consumed 2/3 of her life. Another 30,000 casualties projected for this engagement, her executive officer reported. For an advance of potentially 3 light-years. Calaxi's compound eyes dimmed slightly. The price we pay for security. Across the sector, in an ornate chamber carved from a single massive crystal suspended in orbit around a neutron star, Emperor Zextalan of the Nixorian Imperium received similar reports. His crystalline form refracted light in complex patterns that conveyed his displeasure to the attending court. The Rigelians have reinforced the Cygnus corridor. His intelligence minister's light patterns conveyed. We cannot break through without committing the 7th Fleet. Then we commit the 7th. Zextalan's patterns flashed decisively. The war must end. It will end with our victory. It was into this deadlocked conflict that humanity's first interstellar embassy ship, the UNSS Friendship, arrived at the neutral trading station Waypoint Epsilon. Captain Helena Chen had not expected to be greeted by representatives from 2 warring galactic superpowers. The diplomatic team had trained for first contact with a unified galactic community, not for being thrust into the middle of an ancient conflict. We welcome the human delegation, the Rigelian ambassador's translator device conveyed. Her mandibles clicked in what Chen's xenolinguist suggested was a gesture of respectful greeting. Your species' achievement of faster-than-light travel is most impressive for your developmental timeline. The Nixorian envoy, a crystalline being whose body constantly shifted in complex geometric patterns, added, "We have observed your civilization with great interest. Your rapid technological development is unusual. The Imperium would value closer relations with Earth." Chen maintained the careful diplomatic neutrality she'd been trained for. Earth is honored to join the galactic community. We hope to establish peaceful relations with all spacefaring civilizations. That first meeting marked the beginning of humanity's complicated dance of neutrality. Over the next decade, as Earth established its first extrasolar colonies and expanded its fleet, both the Rigelians and Nixorians courted human allegiance with technology exchanges, trade agreements, and barely veiled threats. The United Earth Senate debated endlessly. Senator Alejandro Reyes of the Mars colony stood before the chamber in Geneva. "We cannot remain neutral forever. The Rigelians control transit routes essential to our expansion rimward. Their protection would." "Their protection comes with subjugation," interrupted Senator Amara Okafor of the Nigerian Federation. "The Nixorians offer technological parity without demanding we subordinate our military." Admiral Takahashi, chairman of Earth's Joint Military Command, raised his hand for silence. At 73, he was the oldest active military leader, respected across political divides. "Senators, I've reviewed all intelligence on both civilizations' military capabilities. They possess overwhelming force compared to our fleet. However," he paused, selecting his words carefully, "they possess overwhelming force in conventional terms. Our research suggests fundamental inefficiencies in their technological approach." The classified research Takahashi referenced was taking place across a dozen hidden facilities throughout human space, while officially maintaining technological exchange programs with both alien powers. Earth was pursuing radical alternative approaches to fundamental physics. Dr. Mei Wang led the most promising research team at the Europa underwater complex. "The aliens have been improving the same basic technologies for thousands of years, she explained to the visiting admiral. They've refined warp drives, energy weapons, and shield systems to near theoretical limits of their design paradigms. But they've never questioned those paradigms. She activated a holographic display showing a strange geometric configuration. We're calling it dimensionally phased targeting. It doesn't matter how strong their shields are if our weapons exist partially in a phase state they cannot detect or block. Similar breakthroughs were happening across human space. On Mars, a team led by Dr. Ibrahim Nasser had developed a method of temporarily destabilizing the fabric of space-time to disable faster-than-light travel. At the Armstrong Lunar Base, quantum engineers had created communications technology that couldn't be intercepted or jammed. Earth kept these developments carefully hidden while building small, unassuming ships that masked their true capabilities. To the Rigelians and Nixorians, human vessels appeared primitive, adequate for colonial transport and light defense, but hardly military threats. "We should be cautious," advised Grand Marshal Galaxy when her science minister suggested recruiting humans more aggressively. "They are an unusual species. Their history shows remarkable adaptability." Emperor Zek. The Proxima Centauri system had been contested for over 30 years, its habitable world reduced to a scared battlefield where ground forces fought endlessly over increasingly meaningless territory. The space around it teemed with over 3,000 capital ships from both factions, along with countless support vessels and automated weapons platforms. Exactly 72 hours after Ambassador Lai's announcement, a small human fleet of 15 vessels appeared at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. They were led by the UNSS Determination, a modestly sized vessel that, to alien sensors, appeared to carry standard armaments. Admiral Carmen Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Determination, surveying the massive alien fleets arrayed before her. Though she projected confidence to her crew, inwardly she felt the weight of humanity's gamble. If Dr. Wong's technology failed, the human fleet would be annihilated in seconds. "Open a channel to all vessels in the system," she ordered. Her communications officer nodded. "Channel open, Admiral." "This is Admiral Carmen Rodriguez of the United Earth Fleet. As announced, we are here to demonstrate humanity's capacity to end this conflict. You have 30 minutes to power down your weapon systems voluntarily. After that time, we will proceed with the demonstration. No lives need be lost today." The response was predictable: silence, followed by both alien fleets moving into attack formations, though neither fired immediately. They were curious what the humans might attempt. Rodriguez checked the time. "They're not complying. Prepare for Phase 1. At precisely the 30-minute mark, the human vessels activated their dimensional phase generators. To the alien sensors, the human ships seemed to flicker and partially disappear, becoming ghostly outlines. "Dimensional phase stable, Admiral," reported the science officer. "Targeting systems online." "Execute Phase 1, Rodriguez ordered. From the human vessels, invisible beams of phased energy lanced out across the system. They passed through the most sophisticated alien shields as if they weren't there, precisely targeting propulsion and weapon systems on ship after ship. On the bridge of the unwavering Dominion, alarms blared as systems began shutting down. "What's happening?" Galaxy demanded as the lights dimmed. "Main power failing, weapons offline, propulsion compromised," her executive officer reported, mandibles clicking in agitation. Similar reports coming in from the entire fleet. "The humans, they're somehow bypassing our shields completely." Across the system, the Nixorian flagship experienced the same phenomenon. Emperor Zek's talon's crystalline form pulsed with patterns of confusion and rage as his mighty vessel drifted powerless. Within 17 minutes, every Rigelian and Nixorian warship in the Proxima Centauri system had been neutralized, disabled but not destroyed, with minimal casualties among their crews. Admiral Rodriguez opened the channel again. "Phase 1 demonstration complete. All vessels have been temporarily disabled. Life support systems remain operational. Your ships will regain minimal function in approximately 6 hours, enough to return to your respective territories. She paused before continuing. Phase 2 demonstration will commence in 24 hours unless both factions agree to immediate peace negotiations. Phase 2 will simultaneously disable all of your military assets across every active front in this war. We've uploaded coordinates for the neutral station Unity, where Earth will host peace talks beginning in 48 hours. As the human fleet departed Proxima Centauri, leaving thousands of powerless warships drifting in space, the implications of what had just occurred rippled across the Orion Arm. Humanity had ended a battle involving thousands of the most advanced warships in the galaxy in less than 20 minutes, without destroying a single vessel or taking a single life. The war that had raged for 17 decades faced its first true existential threat, not from either combatant, but from a species that had achieved faster-than-light travel only 15 years ago. A new galactic order. The Treaty of Unity was signed 30 days after the Proxima Centauri demonstration. Grand Marshal Galaxy and Emperor Zext Talon sat across from one another for the first time in the flesh, rather than across battlefields. Between them sat Admiral Takahashi, now serving as Earth's chief diplomat. The terms are straightforward, Takahashi explained. An immediate cessation of all hostilities. The establishment of a demilitarized zone along the current front lines. Joint reconstruction efforts for worlds damaged in the conflict. And if we refuse, Emperor Zext Talon's crystalline form pulsed with patterns that suggested skepticism. Takahashi didn't need to answer. The demonstration at Proxima Centauri had made Earth's capabilities clear, and intelligence gathered since then had revealed an uncomfortable truth to both superpowers. Humans had deployed only a fraction of their technological innovations in that battle. I would like to understand, Grand Marshal Galaxy said, her compound eyes fixed on Takahashi. How did your species develop such technology in mere decades, when ours had spent millennia refining our science? Takahashi considered his response carefully. It's not that humans are inherently more intelligent or creative than your species. We simply think differently. He activated a holographic display showing the historical development of Rigelian and Nixorian technology, long linear progressions of incremental improvements to established systems. Your civilizations mastered certain technological paradigms and then spent thousands of years perfecting them. You built towering technological edifices, impressive, powerful, but ultimately following predetermined paths. He switched the display to show human technological development, a chaotic web of false starts, abandoned projects, parallel approaches, and radical reimaginings. Humans are messy. We rarely perfect anything. Instead, we constantly question fundamental assumptions. When we hit a technological ceiling, we don't try to push through it. We look for a door in the wall, or we go around, or we redesign the building entirely. The alien leaders examined the display, beginning to understand. It's because you are so young. Zext Talon's patterns conveyed thoughtfulness. You haven't had time to establish technological orthodoxies. Partially, Takahashi agreed. But it's also because of our history. Unlike your species, humans evolved without a single dominant culture or approach. We had thousands of different civilizations, each developing unique solutions to similar problems. When these approaches collided and combined, innovation accelerated. Your weakness became your strength, Galaxy observed. Biological and cultural diversity forced adaptability. And one other factor, Takahashi added, your war. While you focused on refining weapons and defenses within established paradigms, we had the luxury of exploring alternatives. We knew we couldn't match your conventional technology, so we never tried. As the treaty negotiations proceeded, something unexpected began to happen. The representatives from the three species started to exchange not just diplomatic necessities, but cultural and scientific ideas. Rigelian scientists became fascinated by humanity's quantum communication techniques. Nixorian engineers found human approaches to energy generation bizarrely elegant in their simplicity. 1 year after the Treaty of Unity, the First Galactic Council convened. Unlike the old Neutral Council, this new body included all spacefaring species, with the Rigelians, Nixorians, and humans forming its founding triumvirate. Ambassador Chen, now elevated to Earth's first Galactic Counselor, addressed the inaugural session. The peace we've established isn't merely the absence of war. It represents a new approach to galactic civilization, one where diversity of thought is recognized as our greatest collective resource. The immediate post-war years brought unprecedented cooperation. Joint scientific ventures flourished as each civilization contributed its unique perspective. The Rigelians' mastery of biological sciences, the Nixorians' expertise in crystalline computing, and humanity's dimensional physics created technological synergies that benefited all. Earth deliberately avoided becoming a dominant military power. Instead, humanity positioned itself as a mediator and innovator, establishing cultural exchange programs and open scientific collaborations that spread human adaptive thinking throughout the Orion Arm. On the 5th anniversary of the Treaty of Unity, Admiral Rodriguez, now retired, visited the new Galactic Academy on what had once been the contested world of Proxima Centauri, where armies had once fought over scarred terrain. A sprawling campus now hosted students from hundreds of species. She found Grand Marshal Galaxy, also retired, observing a class from a balcony overlooking an enormous lecture hall. The Rigelians' once dull exoskeleton had regained some of its youthful luster. "I never expected to live to see peace," Galaxy said as Rodriguez joined her, "let alone to see our species working together." Below them, human, Rigelian, and Nixorian professors were teaching a class on interdisciplinary problem-solving. Students from dozens of worlds collaborated in mixed species groups, approaching challenges from multiple perspectives simultaneously. "Would you believe some in my government wanted to conquer your worlds after the Proxima demonstration?" Rodriguez admitted. "They argued we had a brief window of technological superiority that wouldn't last once you understood our methods." Galaxy's mandibles clicked in what Rodriguez had learned was amusement. "We had similar voices in our military. They wanted to steal your technology and resume the war. What stopped you?" "Analysis of your history," Galaxy replied. "Our xenopsychologists studied your conflicts and realized something remarkable. Humans are terrifying when threatened. Your species unifies and innovates most rapidly when facing existential danger. A direct threat to Earth might have resulted in weapons far more devastating than what you demonstrated at Proxima." Rodriguez laughed. "And what stopped us was the realization that we're better together. That the adaptive thinking that gave us our edge would only be strengthened by incorporating your perspectives." As they watched the students below, the first generation to grow up in a unified Orion Arm, Rodriguez reflected on how quickly the galaxy had changed. The war that had seemed eternal had ended not through victory or defeat, but through the introduction of a new way of thinking. When the Rigelian-Nixorian War began, humanity had been using stone tools. By the time humans reached the stars, the conflict had become so embedded in galactic culture that most species couldn't imagine its end. It hadn't taken overwhelming force to change everything, just a different perspective. "The most remarkable thing," Galaxy observed, "is that you could have conquered us, but you chose not to." "Why?" Rodriguez considered the question. "Because domination is inefficient, because diversity drives innovation, because we recognized in both your species the same yearning for understanding that drives humans." She smiled. "But mostly because we knew that whatever advantage we had was temporary. The only lasting superiority is collaboration." Below them, a young Nixorian student's crystalline form glowed with excitement as she explained a new theoretical approach that combined all three civilizations' scientific paradigms. Proof that the greatest discoveries lay not in isolation, but in union. And throughout the Orion Arm, the silent stars witnessed the beginning of a new epoch in galactic history, one shaped not by conflict, but by the strange adaptability of the universe's newest spacefaring species.